Officially 9. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. All right. Well, before we dive in, I want to say hello and thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. This recording will be uploaded to our YouTube by the end of the week, so you can always pass it on or share it with friends if you have a good time. Just a couple of things coming up too for our students out there, or if you know any students, we have officially launched our Robert Taylor Scholarship. It is an award of up to $1,500, and you can find more on our website. We'll also send a little recap email after the event with links to everything going on. And then we're excited for you to be joining us on our first D2B, so Design to Business, with Kim Mallek this morning. And I'm going to let her take it from here. If you have any questions, put them in the chat and we will get to those as we go through. So thank you so much for joining us, Kim.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. And thank you, 37 participants who came in this morning. I've been a part of the AIGA for quite some time, and I love being able to share my sense of wisdom of what I've learned in the last 30 years, working as a graphic designer and owning my own business. So if you're here, some of what I'm going to go over is this is really a business 101. This is the checklist that you need to do first. I'd love feedback at the end on, what you want to build on from this programming, so that we could keep it going. But I found out in my career that I actually enjoyed business administration more than I anticipated that I would. I love being a designer too, but I think it's actually kind of fun. And so I'm going to tell you some things that I wish somebody had given me a checklist to have when I first started out. When I sat down to write this quote really resonated with me. I often think that presentations are more difficult than the work itself. So yeah, I did feel a little intimidated, like, how do I unravel this story to get things going? So first, I just want to start with an introduction. I've been working in the Boulder area for almost 30 years, 27 to be exact. And I came out here in my mid-20s to jumpstart my career as a graphic designer. I was going to learn how to do this, even though my degree is in interior design. I had decided I wanted to be a graphic designer. I didn't want to design houses. I wanted to design communication. I'm also a writer. I write novels in my free time. I write songs. I play guitar and piano. I have an amazing husband of 20 plus years. I have an amazing daughter who's 10. And basically, I believe in living a very full creative life. And I never stop doing something creative. And the one thing that I really hope that this presentation will show is that you can approach the business administration from a creative standpoint. It's all about problem solving. That's what design is, and that's what this is too. So with no further ado, this is my two companies. Basically, Mighty Fudge Studios is our LLC, but we have two divisions. We have the Brand Chefs, which is our design division, and then we have Mighty Fudge Studios, which is our animation and entertainment division. One of the reasons I bring this up is that the first step, which is coming up soon, is all about your business name. You kind of can't start a business without having a name. And I know it seems obvious, but it's actually I think the first step is almost the most difficult step. But have no fear. Even if you don't land on what you want that business name to be from the start, you've landed on something that is what the IRS is going to know of your business. And this is what you will use going forward to do all these other steps. You can, as we've done, you can have umbrella, you can have a main business that's an umbrella and then have other divisions underneath. That is your doing business as, or your name that you maybe put forward to your client, or that has the logo and all the fancy stuff. So don't stress too much. But I mean, if you can come up with something unique at the get-go, that will help further differentiate you in the marketplace. So I like to say, grab a cocktail, get together with your best friend or your husband or your dog, whoever that might be, and start brainstorming. some names can transcend, hundreds of years, some maybe not. I think if, the best logos are the ones that have a long-lasting longevity. So think about that as you move in, but you will need this business name to do step number 2. And be curious, you guys. Saul Bass was always curious about how you would create a design and communication tool. So be curious about this process in setting up your business. But step number 1, file for a federal tax ID or EIN number. This is your employer ID number. And what this does is it basically gives you a business number versus using your social security number. You can file your W-9 with your social security number. This is just doing these things just really gives you a foundation that leads to a bigger business opportunity down the road. It's so simple to do this, so there's just no reason not to. And I think the cost is like really low, less than $20 for sure. And once you've done it, it's done. You go to this website, and I'll just pull it up, but the screen grab on my page is this website. You basically, I'm going to go back to my notes. Does it show when I share my screen with the website?
It's just showing your presentation.
Okay.
But we can send the link out. Yeah.
Now I have to figure out how to get back to my presentation. There we go. So you want to select apply online now. I recommend selecting LLC over sole proprietor. An LLC just puts a little bit more of a barrier between you and your personal assets and your business liability. So it doesn't really change all that much. If you can be a sole proprietor, a single person in business, and file as an LLC. There will be a bunch of tax babble. And honestly, I know just enough to be dangerous, but I leave that to my accountant. You really are going to be, if you're filing and you're the only person, you want to select, I am one of the owners, members, or the managing member. You'll input your address and details, and then you'll receive an EIN number. Take a screen grab of that. Right away, just snap it. It takes a little while sometimes for the actual paperwork to come to your home. So now you've got it, and now you know your number. And congratulations, we are on to step 2.
I did have a quick question about EINs. So it came from Olivia. Can you file for your EIN now for last year before taxes are due this year? So that would be filing, I guess, in 2022 for 2021 taxes.
I don't think you can do it for 2021 taxes, but I think if you file this year for 2020, for 2022, it should be fine. You would want to ask your accountant, but go ahead and just file, because once you have it, you can start the process and you can get that in effective for 2022. You'll just need to update your W-9 and then resend that out all your clients so that they've got that on file. And then they'll send you a 1099 at the end of the year. That will have your EIN number on it instead of your social security. Does that answer the question?
I believe so. So yeah, just a quick summary. It will not work for last year. Thank you.
Yep. So once you have your name, you can design your logo. So that's the fun part, but I'm not really going to go over that today. That will be another topic of discussion. The next step is you do need to file with the Secretary of State with Colorado. It's SOS for short. This also is a very quick and easy process. You want to go under businesses, trademarks, and trade names. And whatever name you used on your EIN, that is what you want to file here. This is an annual subscription. So you do want to make sure so basically your whatever email you give them when you sign up for the Secretary of State, they will send you a reminder every year that you need to renew. It's only $10. Like these are really, Colorado makes this very affordable for everyone, but you do want to keep this up. Again, I do recommend the LLC versus the sole proprietor. It's just because it puts another layer between you and of protection between you and your personal assets. The other thing that's really cool about the Secretary of State is if you've gotten fancy with your company name, you can go in and do a search in their database for your business name to make sure that nobody else has it. This is not going to be an exhaustive search, but if your name doesn't come up, you should go through the process of just going ahead and filing for a trademark on your name. A trademark lawyer is really the person who would file all this stuff. It's just not, I mean, for your first round, you're getting your wings flying here, just trying to pick up clients and get yourself going. You don't need to spend a whole lot of money on a trademark lawyer. But down the road, you may want to. You can also file your logo mark. And those are things you should look into with the Colorado Secretary of State. I think it's really just uploading your graphic to the website, and it's all in this section. Very much worth the extra time, for longevity of your business. Does anyone have any questions about the Secretary of State while we're here?
We do have someone from Wisconsin, so I'm assuming the Secretary of State covers businesses for each state.
There probably is one for each state, and I apologize that I'm not familiar outside of Colorado, but for sure, the EIN is federal, so that would relate to all states. Let me see. I opened up that website and let me just see really quick.
Yeah, definitely. And then we also, and I've dealt with this before. I don't know if you've had this, Kim, but Diana mentioned, beware of the scams. I've gotten many. They come in the mail and look sort of official. And I've gotten those too. And it's like,
ignore all of them. The Secretary of State will send you the information when you need to do it. Basically, these companies just charge you a fee to file. There's scams in that they're charging you a fee for something that's really easy for you to do. Most of them probably do actually file it for you. And in this presentation, as we get further, I run everything by my accountant before I ever do anything that comes in the mail that says file your taxes or file this or do that. I just take a quick snap of it with my camera and I send it off to my accountant. I said, am I supposed to do this? And he says, no, it's a scam. I was like, thank you.
Perfect.
So everybody's out there to make a buck. I would probably just go to your Secretary of State in your state and see if there is anything. And I'll do a little research after this and try to follow up if I can find out anything in terms of state to state. So now we're on to step 4. So sometimes what we think is boring and we think something simple is boring. I kind of feel like sometimes some of these things seem really simple and boring, but I hope you realize that sometimes simple and obvious is just what you need to do. So the next step is set up a bank account, people. Don't say, oh, I'm just going to flow it through my personal account and I'll figure it out later. Do the steps, go to the bank, get a business checking account. That's all you have to open up is a business checking account. But you might want to open up like a savings account too for a rainy day. But this will save you so much time at the end of the year. You will run everything through that business account. It seems so obvious, but so many people forget to do this or just don't want to go through the trouble. And everything is online now, so it's so easy to do it online. Just do it.
Just do it. And I did have a quick question too. Yeah. It says, before we get too far, can we talk about accountants? I don't have one, but I'm getting the idea that it's important. So do you have any recommendations?
We are going to talk about accountants.
Oh, perfect.
Yes,
so it's coming down the road. Okay.
It's coming up. The one thing about the bank account is the reason I put that first is that you should, if you have an EIN number, you will use that with your bank account. But if you don't, you can also use your social security number. Trust in the fact that you may not get everything right the first time, and there is sometimes failure through this process. So learn from your efforts. Don't worry, we all fail to succeed. That's just life. So don't get worried. And you can call me. I'll give you my email address at the end. But my next step is find a great accountant. And the type of accountant that I would recommend is an accountant that specializes in small businesses. They will help guide you with so many things. When I first joined my husband's company, he was using this accountant that I didn't like. We didn't have a chemistry. Interview your accountant. Make sure you have a good chemistry with them. And then he died, like literally like 6 months into me joining the business. And so there was some guy who like picked up his accounts, and I met with him once, and I said to my husband, we are not going to be using this guy. I am finding us a new accountant. And I found a new accountant, and we have been using this guy for over 15 years. He is like my business advisor. He has helped me to set up a network for everything in my life. He helps us with HR questions. He helps us with payroll. He helps us with the monthly bookkeeping. He has advised us on whether or not we should file as an S Corp or an LLC or a sole proprietor. He has helped us create a network of professional services, like a financial advisor that set up a retirement fund for us. We use a simple plan, which is like it's like a 401k for really small businesses. But there's all these tax advantages with that. Like we can put money in there, and then that comes off our gross income, and our company can be set up that the company gives 3% of our salaries to this retirement fund. A small business accountant will be your best friend, and really don't skimp and just use somebody, because you will pay a little bit more per month to use an accountant like this. But I personally have felt like every dollar has been worth it. And you can ease into these things. You don't have to like day one have this accountant and then and do all these things. It's a progressive plan to help you grow your business. I use in terms of tax planning, because that's probably going to be your most critical thing starting out, is how do I know what's coming in? I have to pay myself, and what do I need to send to the IRS? I like the law of thirds. If you're bringing in $1,000, you get $333 of it. The IRS gets $333 of it, and the business gets $333. That means that's the money you're reinvesting into your business or your operating costs. So whether, we got to pay Creative Suite now. Every month we have to pay for that. You need to buy systems, you need to buy fonts. There's all these little things, you need internet. So that's kind of just the dummy version of how do I save. And it is important, if you can, to save a little for a rainy day, because there's going to be good months and there's going to be bad months. That's just being self-employed. But if you're at least saving 1/3 for the IRS, you'll be able to pay the IRS at the end of the year. Any questions about an accountant?
We did have someone ask if you would be open to sharing your own accountant's information to
Absolutely.
recommend. Okay, excellent.
Absolutely.
And then there's another question that says, is that 30% just a rule of thumb?
Yeah, just a rule of thumb. The accountant will really tell you what you owe at the end of the year. Most tax brackets are somewhere in the 25% range. I think you can be as high as like 28 and as low as maybe 22. But that's why if you're saving 30 to 33%, you'll just have a little left over at the end. And your first, and again, the accountant will really guide you on this, but if you're running through payroll, you'll be paying every month. They'll be taking federal taxes out and state taxes out right through payroll. If you're if you're paying in dividends, and then you'll be paying quarterly. But then again, these are the things that I let my accountant do. I just don't do it. I ask them to file my quarterly taxes or my payroll taxes. I don't try to be a jack of all trades. I need to focus on new business and my clients, being my clients' brains, and not really being an accountant.
And then there was one last one. So it's 1/3 factoring in state, local, and federal.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So yes. And it's factoring a little extra to be sure you've got some cushion during the year.
That's right.
Ooh, excellent.
A lot of times, when we have really big brainstorms and like this really great idea, we might not trust ourselves, and the same thing applies to business. Trust your gut, listen to your instincts along the way. It works in design and it works in business too. So I really think QUICKBOOks is the way to go. QUICKBOOks Online is really the option now. And again, it does have a monthly fee. So, maybe the next seminar or workshop will be on making a budget, because all these little things, they do add up. But you need to take some leaps of faith in this process of getting there. And these are the things you do need to take a leap of faith with: hiring a good accountant and having QUICKBOOks. QUICKBOOks is great. You can use it for all your invoicing. QUICKBOOks Online is amazing because you can give access to your accountant so that, if you get to the point where you're like, I'm ready to pay, a couple $100s a month and have you reconcile my account at the end of the month so I don't have to do it. How I work, I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I really like to pay all of my bills. So I use QUICKBOOks. I know QUICKBOOks just enough that I can be quite dangerous. I kind of like the way QUICKBOOks is built and how things are categorized. And we could even do like a little workshop on QUICKBOOks down the road. So I pay all the bills, I write all the checks, but I don't reconcile it. At the end of the month, I let my accountant go in and I send them my bank statement and they reconcile it for me. What this does is they can go in then and check, should this have really been something towards marketing or self-promotion, something I purchased, or should this be towards operating, office expenses or stuff like that. So they go in and they see all the stuff that I decided were the different categories for the business. The more you let yourself be open to failure, the more you will allow yourself be open to success. So just don't be afraid of these things. You at some point jumped in, maybe thought you were going to do print design, and now you're doing web design because, the world is digital now. So I need to know that. So we've all had to, look off the edge of the cliff and just jump. So be open to the fact that you can do this. Any questions about QUICKBOOks? One other thing, I do think there's time tracking tools in here too. I don't use that, but as we get further down, I'm going to talk about accountability, and that's part of it there. So there are a lot of business tools in terms of productivity worked into this if you want to explore all that. So this was a really good quote, because I was like, we have to talk about another elephant in the room called insurance. Insurance is just really important, and do not have health insurance. We now are able to get, as sole proprietors or businesses that don't have employees, we are able to get health insurance that is not crap. The ACA has really allowed individual gig workers, contract workers to be in group plans that function very similar to employer plans. I currently am on an ACA plan. I was in a small group plan for a long time. The only way for a business to actually have a small group plan is to have employees that are enrolled in the plan. So what wound up happening for us is the business owners were the only ones who wanted the insurance, and our employees did not. So we were dropped from our United Healthcare plan and network. So I found this really amazing broker, which I've given you the information here, but there's dozens of them. I'm not like his salesperson in any way. I get nothing back. He's been great to help me navigate the ACA because he does individuals too. And what I found is those plans are very similar to what I was getting with United Healthcare. And they're not cheap. I'm going to be honest that, even the more casualty plan where you're like, oh, I'll pay the high deductible and just, pay out of pocket unless I break a leg and I need, or I get cancer or something and I really need high level of coverage, major medical. But here's one thing right now, and vote, you guys vote, because Biden has offered, there's a tax rebate right now. And my insurance that was really expensive for a high deductible plan is half the cost right now, because if your income earning level is at a certain place, you're getting a rebate. So it's a lot. I have a family of 3 that are on a plan, and it's a lot more doable for us. And I'm hoping they keep it going. And Jared was helpful in letting us navigate this and how do we get our rebate and stuff. So a broker is helpful if you do have a business where you have employees and you just want to get a small group plan. You will need a broker to broker that for you. Insurance companies do not talk to the business owner directly. I don't know why. It just is what it is. And I think he does both, but they're all over. They're easy to come by. And an accountant would help you find that person to network you. Or try to think of who else might be able to help network you. But even like business, joining things like the Chamber of Commerce, those are great places to. There's 1,000,001 insurance brokers at those networking events. So if you need to find a broker, go to a Chamber of Commerce event. Any questions about this?
Nothing yet. So
okay. And then the other thing is you'll want to do some business insurance. You can start really small with this. If you're just a sole proprietor, you might want to just get some professional liability or some business owners. I use an insurance broker because what's happened over the years is I have so many businesses on top of my design business. We also do some real estate, my husband and I. So I was overpaying for insurance, and by using a broker, he's able to kind of keep an eye on like all of my policies. You don't need workers' comp unless you have employees or contractors. So that's something to point out. If you are in an office space and you have contractors coming in every day, the workers' comp would cover you with the contractors too. I did look up, because even I forget the difference between professional liability and business owners. So professional liability is what's otherwise coined as errors and omissions. So this is if a client comes back and sues you, this policy would protect you from that, from a lawsuit. Even if you made it, say you made an error and it went to press and it cost $250,000 of press time of prints. This insurance would kick in if suddenly the client was trying to say you're responsible for that $250,000. I've never had that happen. I think, there are asshole clients out there that may come back and try to do this, but that's why you document every review process with your client. You have a contract in place when you get started that I put in my contracts. I'm not liable for more than I was paid, but they could still come back and say, I don't care about that contract we put into. And that might be something to add down the road, is what contracts look like, stuff like that. I'm not going to go into contracts today. Business owners insurance is more like your homeowner's insurance. So if you have a business office space and somebody breaks in and steals, your favorite iPad or your printer or your, whatever, that's what business owners is. So you can kind of decide what you might need at this point. Professional liability, bigger clients will actually ask you to carry this, to actually do work with them. We've had clients ask us to carry up to $2 million of coverage on this to actually engage with them. So really, at the end of the day, we just want to make things look gorgeous, right? And in order for things to be gorgeous and really take you into the future, you have to be accountable. You need to save for slow periods. It's going to happen. It happens to me now. I like personally to have, I follow Susie Orman's rule of thumb. You need to have a year's worth of cash in the bank. This is personal cash. You will never freak out if you have a year's worth of cash. You won't have it tomorrow, but work towards that. Always just be squirreling away $100 here, $200 there. Save for office space. Don't just think I'm just going to work out of my house for the rest of my life. Don't. By being in an office space, it puts a different air of confidence on yourself. So think about, what can I afford down the road? Is it just a couple $100 so I can just go to a community? Now there's all these workspaces that you can just go and work at. You don't even have to lease it all on your own. But think about it. It's worth the effort. It just will empower you to have a place to go to and to separate your personal life from your business life. Track your projects, monitor your profitability. Know how long it took you to do something. Know when a project was banging and you're just damn, I made $250 an hour on this, and know when you only made $30 an hour on something. That will help you project when you need to send an estimate. It also helps you look at, how am I spending my day? What happens in 8 hours a day? Am I spending most of it, on FaceTime because on Facebook or Twitter because I'm a little slow right now? Think about what you're doing and how you're doing it. I track everything I do. If I could track the amount of time I spend cleaning bathrooms at my house, I would do that too. I track when I'm writing on a book. When I work on a new book, I open up a project in my project management software, and every time I write, I track it. Every time I spend time paying bills, every time I meet with a client, I track it. Every time I'm thinking new business, I track it. I need to know that my day is productive, even when I'm not doing business work. I use a program called Function Fox, but it costs money. They have just a individual one that's not that much. You can run reports. I can track every project to see if they were profitable or not profitable. The other thing is attend networking events. Never stop selling. You are your face of your company every moment of the day. And you might be going to a book club with your friends, but you don't know what they might need. So join organizations like the AIGA. I've always volunteered. I also volunteer for a writers group. The Chamber of Commerce is great. Whatever niche you like is good. There's all kinds of things now. There's stuff for the tech industry. There's stuff for the food industry. It's just important to get out there and find out who your potential clients can be, and mingle with them. And also other small business people. You'll learn so much from talking to somebody else who is also just one or two people. So that's what there's only one step I've got left. So do you have any questions up until this point?
There was the one just about your project management, which you answered, and then other recommendations for networking groups. So I was just going to throw out some other design ones. We have got SEGD. We have a local chapter, so that's for environmental graphic designers. We have the Ad Club of Colorado. We've got the Art Directors Club of Colorado. I know there's other ones. There's Design Kids if you're younger, an emerging designer just starting out. But yeah, look into like the things you're passionate about. Like I'm a part of the Letterpress Depot, if you're into those things. So for people who are new, like AIGA is a great one, but look into these other organizations as well. And yeah, we all meet each other, all about that networking.
Yep. So here's the final step, you guys. And here's a little quote from our studio. If we don't enjoy making it, no one will enjoy watching it. Have fun. We don't get 9 lives. We only get one. The more fun like you have doing something, the more fun the people around you will have working with you. So there are going to be days it's not going to feel like fun. It's just going to feel like work. There's going to be days where I'm going to tell a true story here. I've been working on a big giant project since August, and it's been so hard to get it finished. We've had so many meetings. My brand team is so happy with it. They love it. We were ready to send this thing out to press, and the sales director, so it's for a grocery client. The sales directors, after 6 months of working on this, said they vetoed it. They said, we can't approve this. I literally, like, my heart sunk into my shoes. I'm trying to find the energy and the inspiration to redo it. They're not even there. I mean, the brand team loves it still, but they're like, we need the sales directors on board. So I had to write a proposal and brainstorm, and I had to somehow find some energy and excitement because my heart was just torn out of my chest when I found this out. So, it's not as easy every day, but I found the inspiration. I had to like let it sit on the back burner for a couple of days. I had to let myself grieve. And now I found the inspiration. So, whatever your core discipline is, whether it's multimedia or websites or apps or packaging or annual reports or logos, just try to have fun. You'll just like getting out of bed that much more. So here's our checklist. And then if there's any other questions, how am I doing on time? Oh, I did really fast.
Yeah, no, you rocked through it. I was like, damn. Yeah. So does anyone else have other questions? Just pop them in the chat and we'll get those answered. We did have someone asked if we can have the presentation, and I said, I assumed yes, but I'll ask now that we're
Absolutely.
here.
And I will add a frame at the end of like some resources before I send it to you.
Yeah, perfect. I figured sending out by the end of the week will give us time to get the video up, compile all the links for everybody. But let's see. I don't see any questions right now. I'm trying to think of like, are there any big tips for people getting their business off the ground other than what we've talked about, like having fun, just doing it? Or can you share like an anecdote of something, a challenge that you overcame?
Oh, every day I'm overcoming challenges. One thing like to consider that I didn't go into depth on here, but some people would feel better starting a business with a partner. And I do think that if you are looking to start a business with a partner, first you want to know that person really well, but you also really want to talk about your goals together and your strengths and weaknesses, and finding a partner that you guys are a yin and a yang is critical. There could be like a more business mind person and I hate to say the business mind person is less creative, because I actually think I'm equally creative to my husband, but I do wear the business hat and he wears the other hat. So he's more the new business brain. I get a lot of networking and social anxiety. So I must prefer being the taskmaster who's behind the screen and is doing all that. And I much rather he go out and go to all those networking events and put a big smile on his face and schmooze everyone. So find find someone who compliments you, or make sure whoever you're talking to does compliment you. And I do think that one of the really great things about having a partner is that you have somebody to collaborate with and to brainstorm with and to lift you up while you're feeling down. So like, sometimes you're doing this a little bit. The hard thing with a partnership is the trust. And my husband did have a really bad experience early on. So if your gut's saying something's not right, it might not be right. So make sure you don't get taken advantage of in that relationship too. Stand up for yourself like you would a marriage. You definitely have a voice, and don't feel like you have to lie down. You can always get divorced from a partner too.
Correct. Yes. No shame in having a prenup for a partnership. We do have questions coming in now.
Okay, great.
Okay. So the first one was, any advice for getting clients as you're just getting started?
Clients is like, new business is the hardest thing. Definitely. I found most of my clients from places I've worked. So people I know that work places. So, using that experience, that most places are all looking for somebody to fill in, or there is WeWork now. Is that right? No. There is an online platform that's really great right now for, I want to say it's WeWork, but I'm going to double check, and I will put that in the resources. But that's a place where you can kind of just network. It's kind of like an online HR thing.
Someone said Upwork, possibly.
That's it. Upwork. That's the one I'm thinking of. That I think is a really great place to look to start. Finding clients is really the hardest thing.
Yeah, you're always going to be
Networking.
finding, always. Okay, let's see. I had a specific question. What's the legal way to pay yourself out of your business account? And I asked for a little bit of elaboration. Okay. So how do you pay yourself? So do you cut yourself a check to a personal account? How would you handle that?
Yes. So if you can afford to run payroll, that is the best way to pay yourself. And ideally, I think and again, I am not an accountant, so definitely talk to an accountant before you take anything as fact. But my understanding was that you can pay 50% in dividends and 50% in payroll. That's the ideal way to do it. 50% by payroll would mean you're also paying taxes through that payroll. I would use an accountant to do payroll. There are payroll companies you can just hire. I did hire a payroll company early in our business before I found this great accountant that I love. And it just makes more sense to have payroll with the accountant, because then they're seeing your cash flow and they're really monitoring how much you need to be paying in taxes, versus a payroll company that's just doing whatever tax bracket you tell them. You fill out a payroll form like you would for a company. You file a W-4, where you just kind of check the boxes of how many numbers. It's just like when you work for a company. I can't remember all the details of it. So I think it's 50-50, but if you're really just starting out, or maybe your cash flow isn't as predictable as you need it to be yet, then you can pay yourself a check. You can cut yourself a check out of your business account and just say that this is my dividend / payroll. Just indicate that in your category in QuickBooks. And then your accountant would have that information. You would just want to track it. The reason QuickBooks is nice is you can run reports. So then you can track how many times you wrote that check. And at the end of the quarter, you can let your accountant know that I've paid myself this much. We need to make sure, I'm shoring up on my taxes. If it's your first year, my understanding on how quarterly taxes work is whatever you paid in taxes last year, they're going to be expecting you pay that in taxes this year. That's what the IRS is using as a gauge. So you want to be sure if you're having a better or a worse year, depending on that, you just want to make sure you're shoring up, because the IRS is going to be thinking about, oh, they paid us this much last year, so we're expecting that much this year.
IRS.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean,
I know.
they they're balancing their budget too. Well, not quite, but you know what I mean. They're expecting us good paying Americans to be sending something in.
All right, I have another question. Do you definitely need business insurance? Doesn't being an LLC already cover you to some degree?
To some degree, it does. But everybody's gonna find a loophole. I don't know. You don't absolutely need business insurance. Nope. You can run a business without it.
Perfect. Short and sweet. Sorry, I'm trying to dig through these. Okay. So there's a very specific one, I guess, filling out the forms, asking about the areas that the business operates in. And how do you go about, I guess, defining that for the IRS?
Defining where the business operates,
or like the area of the business operation. And if that's not, if that's too specific.
Go back to that slide and see how I went through it, because it's been a while since I've done it. And I went through a part of it. Is this for the EIN or the Secretary of State?
I believe it was for like filing for the LLC.
The LLC.
And if not, we can always, look into it. I think I remember I filed mine a while ago, and I think I remember it's like, what area of business are you in?
And anything can be changed. So like when you meet with your accountant, you can bring your information, and he can look it over and tell you for sure if you want to change something. So things can be changed. Filing as an LLC. I feel like there's a member thing there that you need to. I can't remember what it is.
That's it. I can look into it.
We can look it up a little bit more. I can go through the steps again and see how far it'll let me do it without actually filing a new business.
I know. Yeah, it's been a while. So next question, we'll do a couple more. So any advice for those who may prefer part-time job to cover the basis? Like, should they launch right in, start it as a side business? What advice would you give for that?
I think that's such an excellent way to kind of, jump into it. I mean, you're going to work a lot, but I work a lot. Just because you're self-employed doesn't mean you're suddenly like unemployed and you get all this free time. You almost never stop working when you're self-employed, but you have full control over working. So the great part about that is you can also run all your taxes through your other jobs. So you could just, if you're, I don't know if you're saying working part-time, if you're working part-time, but if you're on payroll somewhere, you then don't have to worry about paying taxes quite as much. You can actually claim zero. So they take the full amount of taxes out. So you're not, you're paying a little extra through that job, which means you don't have to worry as much for your freelance business. And then the one thing though I would say to still do is still file the EIN, even if you don't want to still file. I'm sorry. You can just use your social security. You might not want to deal with the EIN. You can just use your social security number on a W-9. So a W-9 is a form that you will need to fill out anytime you work for a client. So that's either if you're contract or if it's even a corporate client. And that will basically they take that, and you have either EIN number or your social security number on that. They send you a 1099 at the end of the year. That 1099 is what they're telling the federal government they paid you last year. So then when you file your taxes at the end of the year, all those little numbers on that 1099 have to be populated on your tax filing. It's nice when you get the 1099 because you can do the math, you can add it up if you want. But if you've gotten QuickBooks, which you should have done, you will already know how much money you've collected from all those clients. So I would still do the QuickBooks, you know what I mean? So that or open up the bank account so that you are still running your business money through a separate account. Even if you're only collecting $500 a month, it's still going in one place. It's just a better way to run your business. And then you'll have some place to launch from when you go full-time, because you are going to go full-time.
Guaranteed. Let's see. Someone asked a good age to start your own business.
A good age, I say, gosh, some people are working freelance while they're in school, but I would say after it's really personal. I liked working for a company. So for me, I felt like I needed more experience in my career, so I think whenever you feel secure and confident so that you can sell yourself, then that's the best time to do it. One thing I would be mindful of is because there's sustainability is necessary in our industry. So in terms of setting rates, you obviously want to set rates that are sustainable for yourself and align with your experience, but you also want to set rates that are sustainable for the industry. And one thing I think in organizations like AIGA are trying to really come out is our industry needs to be sustainable, and it shouldn't just be about, oh, this guy undercuts everybody, so he gets all the work and all these other people don't. That's kind of what's happening with outsourcing to India and things like that. So, I personally believe we do need a little more transparency on, how does the industry monitor rates, so that, and I think organizations like AIGA should be stepping up to this so that rates are a non-factor. It's process, it's experience, it's the intangibles that you bring to the table for a client that separates you. And it's not simply, oh, this place is $2,500 cheaper, so I'm just going to go with them.
Excellent. So now we've got people, well, this is going to be our last question here. We're going to bullet into one, talking more about rates. So obviously, based on where you live, the work you do, the special sauce you bring to the table. Can you talk about, how you've changed your rates over time, and if there's like any resources you can suggest? Like, I am a big fan of I believe it's the Graphic Artists Guild has a big book that comes out every year that dives into talking about breaking down rates based on, very specific things like how large your client is, how big your business is, and et cetera. Can you talk a little bit more about rates?
Yeah, sure. I'm never afraid to talk about money. And I think that's the most important thing. Don't be afraid to talk about money. The client knows they have to pay for it. And if the client doesn't know they have to pay for it, they're not a good client. The conversation's over. If they come to you and they're not comfortable with disclosing a budget, or that they have a budget allotted, then they're probably not worth talking to anymore. It's a really hard question to ask, but I always ask in that first meeting, do you have a budget? Sometimes they don't like to be transparent on what the budget is. And I sort of understand a little bit where they're coming from. I think they feel like, well, if I show them all of my cards, then it's not a guessing game is ultimately what it comes down to. And a lot of times if they won't disclose it, what I will say is something like, well, there's a big variable in what I can go in and do for you. You know, the level of exploration, the amount of work I put in, it's not a black and white scenario. We're offering a service, and service is really hard to sell because it's an intangible and it's subjective. What beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that's not a lie. Like, you can, I have spent weeks on an exploration, worked with my graphic designer and presented something that I was so passionate about that I thought was so great. And I had a client just say we gave them crap. And I've had clients be very unprofessional about the way they deliver that message. It's fine. We can have a difference of agreement. Nothing is crap. We just may not have, delivered what you expected, So ask up front. That's the best thing to do. If you can't get an answer, but you're maybe passionate about this person, or you trust this person, you've met them before, or what they're selling is something, a product or whatever they want is something you want to work on, then maybe I throw out some numbers right then. Sometimes I'm like, well, are you comfortable at, between 2,500 and 5,000? Or, if you're sensing this person's really starting out, are you only comfortable with something under $1,500 or less than 500? If it's less than 500, I mean, there's only so much we can do for less than 500. I always like to use the analogy, well, it takes so much gas to get the car out of the garage. For me to just dive in and have this meeting with you and then start work on something took a certain amount of my time. So that's usually, if I feel like the client just doesn't know what their budget is, but knows they have to pay, I start throwing out numbers right then and there in
You don't expect.
Exactly. You really do. And scope of work, I mean, that could be a whole workshop in its own, but it's so critical to understand scope of work and to put in as much as you can. I mean, obviously you don't want to send, a client that has a $500 budget, a 10-page contract, but, understand your scope of work and how many rounds you've included, how many concepts you've included, how many meetings you've included. That's something I've recently been having to add because I hadn't anticipated, 7 or 8 meetings that got called, and you don't want to tell the client no. So, and you'll refine that more and more. Once you get burned, you never make that mistake again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kim, for such an informative thing. I know there's a lot of interest kind of in delving into more specific topics and kind of working through those. So thank you so much for kicking it off.
Can they email you and then we can, because that would be great. I'd love to know what people really want to know. I'll do my best. I'm not perfect, but I'll do my best.
Right. Well, yeah, we all have to grow. We all got to start somewhere. So you can email me, and I'll also send out, like I said, a follow-up email with the slides, all of the lovely stuff, a link to the recording.
I'm going to put up my contact information real quick.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. If you have any questions,
was at the end here.
Things you want to know more about, we're very excited to kind of be kicking this off and diving more into this in the new year. So thank you so much, Kim, for your time today.
Oh, thank you guys. It was so great to be here.
Yay. Well, thanks everyone. I hope you all have a lovely day and a great week. And yeah, this will be up soon.
Thank you so much, everyone. Happy Tuesday.
Bye.